Hey, welcome to Bike Rider TV. Today we're testing something, well, it looks just like an ordinary CBR650R, and this is the Lambs version here in New Zealand, so it's restricted for learner riders. But what we have got is Honda's new E-clutch, which, if you haven't heard of it, is following in the footsteps of a few of the other manufacturers at the moment and turning this into an automatic motorcycle. But don't fear, it's still a heap of fun, and the beauty with the Honda system is you've still got a clutch lever, you've still got a gear lever, but you do get the benefits of having an automatic motorbike. So let's jump on and see what this thing can do. Okay, so the first thing you'll notice, being the new CBR650R, we've got the new TFT dash, 5-inch TFT on this, so much better than the LCD that we had on the previous version. As you can see, there's still a clutch lever. We've got new switch gear, which is quite nice, including this new joystick, which I think is going to go across a few of the other models in the range. Slightly updated Showa big piston forks, different internals, essentially different damping ratings, I believe. We've got new LED lighting, slightly different fairing, and actually when you do see them back to back, this one does look a lot more aerodynamic, a lot racier, should I say. Different rear end as well, so sharper rear end again for a sportier look. LED lighting new all round, and some new LED rear lights which look quite sharp. But essentially underneath it's the same 4-cylinder 16 valve double overhead cam, 649cc, yep, 4-cylinder. So but what we're looking at here today is the E-clutch, which if you're sitting here you wouldn't really notice any difference because we still have a clutch lever, but down here by my knee we have the E-clutch system, which is a serviceable system, so it essentially bolts on, adds 3 kilos to the weight of the bike, so to be honest you wouldn't really notice, and it's on this, the new CBR650, it's on the CB650, but by the sounds of it it's going to continue across the range, and certainly models like Africa Twin and the Transalp and a few of the Taurus and that sort of stuff will certainly benefit from this system. So it differs slightly from Honda's own DCT, which we didn't have a clutch lever, didn't have a gear lever, it was all automatically done, and Yamaha's YAMT, which is essentially the same, just had a flappy paddle shift, and the bike automatically shifted for you. The Honda, you still have to change gears, so with this E-clutch system you still have to use your foot to change gears. You just don't have to use the clutch if you don't want to. That essentially makes the bike unstallable, which I'm sure plenty of learners will be pleased to hear about out there, and probably seasoned riders, because there is nothing worse than stalling your bike, especially the big heavy tourers. But the beauty of this system is, if you do want to use the clutch, slow speed work, or if say you're on an adventure bike and you want to lift the front wheel over an obstacle, you've got the clutch there to be able to pick the revs up, lift the front wheel and get over an obstacle, or use it to feather and be smoother with your riding. Truck driver. So Honda reckon with this E-clutch system that it's actually obviously a lot smoother than doing it manually, a lot faster as well than you with your clutch hand. They reckon it's also faster and smoother than a traditional quick shifter, and this isn't a quick shifter as such. It does use the IMU and the ECU, and takes into account gear position, throttle position, speed, revs, that sort of thing, and it adjusts the ignition to suit as you're about to change gear. But essentially there's 2 tiny motors in the E-clutch system which quickly pull the clutch lever, as it were, open the clutch, allow the next gear to be selected, and makes it a whole heap smoother and a whole heap faster. So there's some graphs that Honda have put out, and it shows with a quick shifter, obviously you're banging into gears, all it's doing is chopping the ignition, and you're essentially banging the gear through. With this E-clutch system, it not only does it do the ignition, it also uses a fraction of clutch as well, and the graph shows that there's a lot less what they call shift shock, so it's that bang, that surge as the next gear gets selected. So it's a smoother system, which will be better for smoothness riding on the road, especially if you've got a pillion on the back, but also if you're on a racetrack, lesser a shock going through to the back tyre, so therefore increased traction. Anyway, so let's go for a ride and give this thing a go. First thing we need to do is remember not to use the clutch, start the bike as usual, and then select a gear. We don't go anywhere. Now the trick with it, because you can't have the finesse of using a clutch as we ordinarily would, is bringing the back brake into play, so sort of holding the bike on the back brake and using the throttle to pick the revs up actually makes it quite smooth for riding at slow speed. Still got a throttle cable, so it's not a ride-by-wire, which possibly would make the system a little bit more controllable. But still it works pretty well. Quite busy around here at the moment. So again, not using the clutch. And off we go. There we go, so up to 6th gear. Haven't used the clutch once, and it is super smooth. The clutch is still there if you need to use it. It's a little bit peculiar if you do use it. It's like the first half of the clutch travel has been taken out of it to stop you disengaging the e-clutch system, which it does automatically when you do pull the clutch. You might see that green light on the dash there. That tells you that the automatic system is working. So if you need to use the clutch, it's almost like you've got the lever wound back to the handlebars a little bit too far, but there is still a clutch there for you to use. Now the system is adjustable, so you can go to the settings. You've got a soft, a medium and a hard setting, and essentially what that does is it changes the amount of pressure that's required to get the system to shift. So we're just in a standard setting at the moment, and to be honest, it's quite nice. What you will find is if you're on a closed throttle and you change down, it's not like a quick shifter and then it blips on the way down. It's using the clutch to change down and kind of matches the revs, but doesn't blip it up. So what you can actually do, if you want to do it here, if you want to get a turn left here, you can actually flip the throttle yourself, change down, and still not use the clutch at all. But for all intents and purposes, this is a ordinary manual CBR650R. But if you don't want to use the clutch, you don't have to, and I think it's rather neat. Okay, so ready to take off, and can't start the bike in gear with it like that. Chuck it in neutral, can see that the green light is on, so our e-clutch is working. Enter first, and off we go. Like I say, this is a Lambs, so learner approved CBR650R that we can ride here in New Zealand, and it's actually quite a sweet little bike. So yeah, as I say, it's had a few updates for 2024, 25, different styling, but essentially the motor's the same. I think they just tweaked the internals a fraction just to give it a little more bottom end, but even though it's a 4-cylinder, it really is nice and torquey. It really has got heaps going on down the bottom. Just a little clunky there. See, that on and off throttle is just where you don't get the finesse that you would do if you were using the clutch. I'm sure the Yamaha system was smoother. That was better on a sort of throttle, and I guess that's probably the right wire versus a throttle cable. So yeah, the CBR650R here, we've probably instead of the 90, the full power version, we've actually got about 46 horsepower. So essentially it's the same bike between sort of 3 to 6,000 RPM, and it is beautiful. It's smooth, it's easy to ride, slightly sporty riding position, and it actually looks much like a Fireblade when you're on the road if you're following it around. So really easy to ride around town, nice and smooth. It's got a decent set of Nissan radial mounts, 4-piston calipers, so stops well. It's just when you start getting over that 6,000 RPM that you realise that you're on the restricted machine. And while it can apparently rev to 12,500 RPM, you're wasting your time, because essentially anything after 8,000 RPM and the progress you're making is it just isn't worth being there. You're just making lots of noise and lots of revs. Using the E-clutch, click another gear and get back into that torque, and it's a really pleasurable bike to ride. I think it looks sharp, it's nice and light. As I say, it's 3 kilos to put the E-clutch on it, and I think it's well worth it. Simply just to, give your clutch hand a bit of a rest. But if you're a newer rider, which you would think you would be if you're riding a Lamb's machine, it gives you the best of both worlds. And you can actually turn the system off. You just dive into the settings on the 5-inch TFT dash, turn the system off, and you've got a standard CBR650R with a clutch, albeit 3 kilos heavier than one without the E-clutch. One thing you do slightly notice is you can just kind of feel where the E-clutch is around your right leg when you're stopped, but it's not a biggie, and certainly I think for the slightly extra cost, it's absolutely worth having. Quite a sporty riding position on this CBR650R, so it's nice to have a double bubble screen here to sort of get you out of the wind blast. Handles beautifully. Non-adjustable suspension, you've got preload in the rear and that's it. But it really is an easy spot to ride. You see there, I'll just chop down 2 gears and it doesn't blip. And I'll do it again now, eh? So I'll go here, we're on a closed throttle. It doesn't blip like a traditional quick shifter, but what it's doing is it is changing the ignition, is using a fraction of clutch, and it's just making the shift as smooth as possible. See, as I say, reasonably sporty riding position on this CBR650R. Your feet are quite high, but you're tucked in the tank. It's actually quite comfortable. And it's super economical. I think you should be good for about 350 kilometers before you need to start thinking about visiting a petrol station. So again, keeping those revs nice and low doesn't mean it's sucking much gas, and it's got the sort of drive at low revs here like that you'd almost expect from a parallel twin, but it's not. It's a 4, and it feels so much nicer, so much smoother. And also sounds pretty cool. Underslung exhaust, so it looks quite sharp. We've got a tail unit on the back of this one, so I don't believe there's a back seat on it. But it's a nice, it's a great bike as a learner bike, and it's certainly one that you'd be able to keep riding as you got more confidence with using a motorcycle. Okay, so that's the Honda CBR650R Lamb's version, but complete with e-clutch, and it's a great little package, I must say. Easy to use, uninstallable, perfect for learner riders everywhere.